Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm your host, Sarah.
And this week on the show, we begin our coverage of Star Wars MAUL Shadow Lord. So excited. We are so excited. We are informally calling our little podcast recap series here MAUL Madness. We don't know if anybody else has taken that.
The iconic 90s and 2000s board game MAUL Madness. If you don't know it, please give it a Google, because you do play as somebody who goes to the various stores in the mall and needs to buy items. And I think that we can put Darth Maul in that situation. Darth Maul Fashion King, Darth Maul. It's like maybe Darth Maul Madness, and then he's on.
Maybe he's hooping out in the backyard with his basketball hoop.
Right. And we get the March Madness in there, the MAUL Madness in, like, maybe the mall is Janix, and he has to go to all the various crime bosses and take them out.
Ooh.
And that's how he wins the game of MAUL Madness.
He owns the mall by the end, and he calls it right. MAUL's Mall.
MAUL's Mall.
It's all connected.
Bring back the malls, the death of malls. What a sad thing.
What a sad thing.
But do you know who doesn't die? Darth Maul.
That's
Not
true.
for a little while longer.
What a transition. Hey, just quick shout out though, March Madness, my Michigan Wolverines, they just won the national championship. First time in 37 years.
That is true.
It truly
Congrats
is.
To you, Brad.
It truly is a time of madness. Moments are made in March. Actually, they're made in April, because that's when the tournament ends. So
I need the listeners to know that Brad was so excited about them winning that he said he had spent a large number of monies on merchandise, and that he was planning to spend a lot more monies on merchandise. So, if it only comes around once every 37 years, you're going to be really old by the next time it happens. So you might as well do it now.
I might be dead. Who knows? But back to your point. I'm excited. I'm excited to, well, first and foremost, we have new Star Wars to talk about, because I feel like for many, many months here, really the last thing that we talked about was Star Wars Visions in terms of TV.
Right.
And we had Andor last year. So yeah, just Visions and Andor last year.
Mm-hmm.
We had the end of the High Republic, which was very exciting. We had a new Andor kind of ish book come out in the form of the Reign of the Empire trilogy. But it was very, very book heavy last year. And so now we're just starting off the year strong, I think, with Star Wars animation back on the menu. Super excited to continue the story of Darth Maul. I think he's a character that definitely deserves his own show. And I think there's a lot of potential here, especially with the announcement of a season 2 coming. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about kind of being back in new Star Wars mode. Of course, we had a great read earlier this year with Low Red Moon. So that was like a great way to start our year in new Star Wars stories. But I sat down to watch this and I was like, oh yeah, animation. I love being back in animation, And then I was like, oh, what's the last animation? I was thinking about all of the animation things, whether it be Visions or Bad Batch, or like we relatively recently read Sanctuary, which was the Bad Batch novel, which is like the best of both worlds. So it's just exciting to be back in the world of animation, which is a mainstay for us here on the podcast. We're always going to talk about the animation, and is also, I just think, a core piece of Star Wars. So I'm happy to be back, and I'm also happy to be in a little bit different corner of the universe than we have been last year, whether it be with the High Republic or in the, very, very beginning of the Rise of the Empire time period. And starting off the year, as I mentioned, with Low Red Moon, which I loved so much. I was like, wait, crime bosses and syndicates are kind of interesting, actually.
Not something I thought Sarah would be saying in the year 2026.
I know. Even I surprise myself sometimes.
And there will be more of it in The Mandalorian and Grogu, let me tell you. The twins, the Hutt twins are coming back. We're getting shredded stinky.
That I don't want.
Now you're getting it.
I still don't want that. But after having read Low Red Moon and we've been in a couple of like speculative conversations about Mando and Grogu and thinking back on the Mandalorian stories we've gotten before. I was like, you know what? This is a really interesting corner of the universe to be continuing to spend time in. And I'm glad I have the opportunity to do that this year. Like, again, something I never thought I would say, but like, I'm in. Sure. Yeah. And so I thought this was interesting. We'll dig into it, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm super locked in for this. And speaking of Bad Batch, you brought that up. It's been almost 2 years since the show ended, May 1st, 2024. So like, aside from Visions, like this is our first in-house Lucasfilm Animation Star Wars project in like quite some time. Actually, there was Tales of, I believe, Tales of something that happened last year with
the shorts.
Yeah, with I think it was Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress, maybe. Yeah, Tales of the Underworld. Yes, Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane. So that did happen also. But I actually have not had the chance to watch that yet. But in terms of like a long form series, this is our first one in almost 2 years, which is very, very exciting. We're in for the long haul with Maul for a little bit. And there's really fun implications for how that could eventually tie into Solo, into his involvement in Rebels, right? So there's this like middle part between the end of the Clone Wars and Rebels where it's like, how does Maul become this enraged old man who wants to groom Ezra Bridger? And so how does he get there?
I thought to myself as I was watching this, I was like, wait a second. This is another youth that he is trying to get over to his side. This is it. It's just weird that it's happened twice. That's all I'm saying. Okay. It's weird that it's happened twice.
It's kind of happened 3 times because he sort of tried that with Ahsoka in the Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah. You're so right. And also, can we say that he like maybe just think about the Phantom Menace as an entire piece? Like, I don't know. Maul.
What an interesting guy.
He goes, these youth have malleable minds. I'm going to try and get them. Terrifying. Anyway, here we are.
We will psychoanalyze Maul a little bit later in the show here, which I'm very excited to do. But I wanted to take us back almost exactly a year ago, almost, Sarah, when we were in Japan and we first saw the trailer for Maul Shadow Lord, which was very exciting to get that first look long before it was public. And now we're finally here getting to watch the show. So I'd love to hear kind of just initial thoughts on getting a Maul show, getting one in the style and a little bit of a different style of animation, but kind of in the similar style that we're used to with this era and with these characters, and kind of your anticipation leading up to the series.
Yeah, I think that this has been a quiet one for me. I'm not coming into the show as a Maul fan. I've consumed many stories of Maul, just being a Star Wars fan, of course, and I've enjoyed some key stories that he's been in, like Siege of Mandalore is spectacular, and so when I heard that it was a Maul show, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not as new as I was hoping it would be, but the art style stood out so immediately to me, and I think that was one of the things off the bat as I started to watch these episodes that I was like, ooh, I'm in, because this is cool. And it feels a little bit like some of the Visions shorts that we've seen. It has this like elevated feel to it. And I think Maul also brings that in the way that he speaks and the energy and the presence that he has in a room as a character. It's sort of elevated because he's cuckoo bananas, but also kind of right. He's complicated. So yeah, I mean, and the reality is I'm always happy to hear Sam Witwer be excellent in any role that he plays,
Yes.
He's so good. And I remember us being at that panel last year, which is crazy that that's last year. Holy cow. And then we're like a year away from Star Wars Celebration in LA. Holy moly. Oh my God. Anyway, but I could listen to him talk all day long, tell stories, talk. So I'm glad that he's, back in the spotlight as Maul again. I think I answered all the pieces of your question, and I think you should answer all the pieces of your question too.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Maul is somebody that I've had a big affinity for since I was a kid when I saw The Phantom Menace in theaters, and I was just absolutely fascinated by Darth Maul. I remember having a Darth Maul T-shirt, which was one of my favorite, and I will send you the photo of me wearing the T-shirt. I have some
Okay,
on my
you
computer.
should post it for the people too.
Maybe we'll see. But he was just one of those characters I was so fascinated by, and I just remember being a kid and being so excited about the dual wield lightsaber and kind of running around my house recreating all the scenes with my toy lightsaber of Darth Maul jumping around, doing some flips, right? Like that was so revolutionary for Star Wars fighting at the time. Just a much more heightened version of what we were used to. But yeah, it's so cool. I think going back to Sam Witwer, he's somebody who I feel like I've been following for such a long time with playing Force Unleashed back in the day, to him getting cast in the Clone Wars series and then working on Rebels, and then going back into the Siege of Mandalore and kind of coming into the Star Wars trust circle once again. And so it feels like after all of this time to finally get his own TV show that he can headline is so exciting, because he is such a unparalleled talent in voice acting for Star Wars. And again, to your point, I could listen to him talk for hours. He knows a lot about Star Wars. I might not necessarily like agree with all of his takes on certain things, but he is completely, utterly knowledgeable about the franchise, and the way that he talks about Star Wars is so fascinating. And I love it. I love hearing about it.
He's knowledgeable, and he's also just a great storyteller. Like he has such incredible charisma. And I'm like, yeah, I love this guy.
Yeah. He's the guy that if you were in a bar and he started talking, like eventually the whole room would be around him listening.
Exactly.
Like that's like the music would stop, bartender would stop serving drinks. They're all just like, tell us more about your stories.
Right. And then like in the context of a film, he would start the narration of a new story, and then a light music would play as we enter that story visually.
Yeah.
And as he narrates over it.
And not only is he knowledgeable about Star Wars, but like the passion is there. There was an interview that came out on StarWars.com, and there was a photo of him in the recording studio of him actually wearing Darth Maul face paint, or mostly just like black marker kind of drawn all over his face, and he looks so happy. And that's just the type of guy you want.
He would.
That's the guy you want working in Star Wars. Like he's just as genuinely so happy to be there. And who knows, maybe if Sidious is in the series down the road, we'll get his Sidious once again as well. So that could be kind of cool.
He should just do the D. Bradley Baker of it all and voice everybody.
He probably could, if we're being real.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so excited to be covering the show with you. So just a quick heads up on how we'll be talking about this show. We're doing our 2 episodes today. We'll be back in 2 weeks talking about a 4-episode chunk, and then we'll be back again on May 4th talking about the last 4 episodes of the season. So we're kind of spacing it out a little bit to have a good chunk of plot to talk each time that we meet. I'm doing some travel this month, so it also just worked out better that way. So we'll have about 3 total episodes, at least as we're planning it right now. So really, really excited. Wrap this up on May the 4th, as is always tradition. Somehow there's always something happening in animation on May the 4th. So glad to keep that one alive. But any other final thoughts, Sarah, before we dive into the episodes?
Nope. Let's dive.
Cool. So today we're talking about Chapter 1, The Dark Revenge, which is directed by Stuart Lee, Saul Ruiz, and Nathaniel Villanueva, and written by Matt Miknevets. And Chapter 2, Sinister Schemes, which is directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Matt Miknevets. Matt Miknevets, notably, I believe, like one of the showrunners alongside Dave Filoni. He's also an executive producer alongside many other folks like Athena Portillo, Brad Rao, Carrie Beck, Josh Rhimes. So a lot of heavy hitter names that we're used to in the Star Wars animation world.
It's like all of our faves. It's like, oh great, here's another awesome Lucasfilm animated animation creative, and I love that they continue to make shows together.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. Very, very cool. I want to get your overall thoughts on the show before we kind of dive into the characters themselves.
Yeah, I feel like this was a really compelling opening. I think I'll have less to say today than I do in future episodes as we really start to dive into the complexities of the relationships between, like Maul and Devon and all that. But like the setup here is really compelling. it's really interesting, and I appreciate the clear lines that were drawn over these first two episodes, and the setup of how everything's gonna go bad for everybody, basically. One, we know that it never really goes right for Maul, so I'm certainly not expecting that. Although him being the protagonist of the show, I am expecting something to go right for him, something major by the end of this. But he's got to suffer as a character. It's kind of just his vibe. But yeah, overall, I felt like these were really interesting setup episodes. I think that the plot so far is quite clear, and there are some characters that whenever they go on screen, I go, I'm really interested to see more of you, including most notably Spybot. Okay, thank you.
Knock,
What about
knock.
you? Boosh Kudu. Are you as big as a Spybot fan as I am?
I do love Spybot. There were a good assembly of droids in these episodes, as well as Richard Ayoade's character Two Boots.
Two Boots,
Not his
yes.
first time voicing a droid in Star Wars. He was previously in The Mandalorian, voicing one of the robots there in the season 1. But I love Spybot. I love the one elevator droid at one point that's like on the side of the elevator when Lawson's going to meet Rena Soul, and the elevator is like laughing at him. I'm just like, oh, what? The elevator has a characteristic now and is alive, and wow, that's sentient. Like, that's cool. That's really cool. It's like small details like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great character work in these episodes. Just like new people that were introduced to, some of these crime bosses. I would say like low level crime bosses compared to what we're used to in Star Wars, which I think we'll get there eventually.
Goofy in these two episodes. I'm like,
I mean, Vario, Demas, I think is the other
Demas.
one. Who kicks the bucket pretty quick.
Okay. Have you seen Holy Musical Batman on YouTube?
I have not. No.
Okay, so it's one of the Star Kid musicals. I promise I'm going somewhere. And they the whole funny thing is that they get all of like the D tier Batman villains. And those are the who is interacting with Batman throughout the show. And they're so lame. Like, they're so goofy. And that's what I felt when I was watching this. I was like, we have one very serious character and he's dealing with the goofiest guys in town, you know?
Like Vario's like walking around in a robot suit, and then he pops out and he's just like a 3-foot dude, 3-foot tall guy.
Yeah. He's a goofy guy.
It's very, yeah. Many of these characters are like kind of caricatures in a way of just like the mustache twirly, I'll get you.
Yes.
Darth Maul, like those types of personalities, which is fun. It's like a fun way to introduce the series before we get down to the Dryden Vosses and the Kiras, right? Like which will come, and we know Dryden Voss will be in the series because I believe we saw him on a poster and or in the trailer at one point. So
you sent me that poster, and with no context, and I looked at it for a couple times. I was like, oh, that's Dryden Voss, and I don't think you replied. So
we gotta get our Crimson Dawn guys in there.
I'm not feeling the enthusiasm for you about Dryden Voss, but I'm looking forward to Dryden Voss because he's quite serious. In fact,
will he be voiced by Paul Bettany? Is the big question.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But maybe Sam Witwer will do it.
Maybe. More on Dryden Voss in a bit, though, because I have some questions around like the Shadow Collective and kind of where we left them off in the Siege of Mandalore, which we can dive a little bit into once we get to Maul here in just a second. But I want to make 2 other notes up top about this show, which first and foremost, the music.
Yes.
Kevin Kiner, Sean Kiner, Deanna Kiner, incredible job. Like, I think right off the bat, throwing us into a heist with the music was so exciting and such a great way to kick off the show. It started explosively, fast, more intense. It wasn't this kind of like long, drawn out, exposition heavy opening. It was just like, we're throwing you into the world of Janix. Things are happening. Criminals are doing their thing. It's explosive. It's fast. It's speedy. I love my speed in Star Wars. It's exciting, you know, and just set the right tone. And the music is definitely doing a lot of lifting here in this episode. It sounded very Rogue One-esque.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving like the soundtrack a listen so far with what we got. But the reality is that the Kiners, none of them ever miss, really. They've continued to give us great music throughout everything that they've done. So the start of this is definitely no different.
Yeah, totally. But I want to talk up top about the art style and
Yes.
Janix as a place, which
Yes.
are, I
Yes.
think
And yes.
the two of those kind of go hand in hand. So much of these first two episodes is the world building. I think Janix as a place is so fascinating because I was reading an article on StarWars.com and it was really interesting to hear them talk about how they didn't want to recreate Coruscant, like make it have a distinct feel, but still have it kind of like terrestrial and feel almost lodged in our own world and be familiar with these more like these highways, ground level traffic. Like Coruscant, we're used to speeders kind of flying through the air, doing their thing, but now we're like on the ground level with the cops, with the bad guys. It almost felt like Gotham City, you know, Batman chasing the gangsters through the street to try to stop the truck full of money type of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty exciting and just really underscoring there is a thriving criminal underworld in the city.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's what felt really clear to me is that like everybody's kind of got their lane and they generally stay in their lane, sort of a thing. Everybody, like Lawson is aware of the major players and what's going on, but he doesn't get involved until they get involved, till they cause trouble in his world. Um so I thought that was really interesting in terms of like the social lines that are being drawn within this city world. Um but man, if you guys haven't, like, to anybody listening that hasn't opened this article on Janix, I highly recommend because there are so many absolutely stunning, gorgeous visuals to look through in addition to all of the information to be learned in in it. But it seems like it's a place that people are living their lives. Like there is struggle here, but there is also real community and people living their lives and thriving. um it feels very ordinary in a way. It doesn't feel extraordinarily rich or extraordinarily destitute, or um it's not where the most royal people live. Like it feels very middle of the road, which I think is nice.
Yeah, and at least from what we've seen, right? Because I mean, Coruscant had layers, right? So part of me wonders, are we going to explore more of those layers in this city
Sure.
as the season progresses? Like, what is some of the darker underbelly side of the city? Like, senior digimat artist Kyra Cabler, who was featured pretty prominently throughout this article, had mentioned, quote, "I'm not sure if it's a utopia or a dystopia, probably a little of both. There's a lot of poverty, a lot of dirt and garbage on the streets. It's not it's not a well-maintained city. Distorting the look of the place helps to make it feel like that, but also the scale is really large where there are different layers to it. The abstract qualities make it feel bigger. You don't know where you are, you're a little lost." So I definitely feel that. It feels like a lot more claustrophobic, even more so than Coruscant does in some sense. Coruscant feels much more open because so much of it is underneath, and we're often seeing the above parts of the city, like from the bird's eye view of the Jedi Tower, of the Senate. Like we're seeing the speeders everywhere, but now we're buried deep in the city.
Yeah, there's a real cityness to it. It's a terrible way to say anything. The city feels like a city, but it's real because we spend so much of our time on Coruscant with the elites who live above the city. They see the sky, and it definitely off the bat feels a little bit different with that. And I think that has to do not only with who we're following, but just the colors and the way that they're presented to us, and like the feeling of the city. But it feels like a place that you can get lost, or like the city in which you go to work and you pass thousands of people and nobody knows your name, and you get to live you kind of get to, you're the main character of your own life. That's what it evokes to me, which I think is nice. It's cool. I like it.
Totally.
Anyway.
And the art style is just, again, now kind of tying that into this conversation, the art style is just so freaking good in this show. And I think Janix as a place really highlights the strength of the animation. A lot of use of paint swatches of paint and kind of this like hand brushed look, despite it still all being CGI at the end of the day, and kind of thinking of like depending on how far in the distance you're looking versus the things that are a little closer to the foreground, like how does the art style change in foreground versus background, right? Like things that are farther away might have even a more accented hand brush feeling, whereas the things close might still retain some of that, but be a little bit more detailed. So looking at some of those differences is really fascinating. They talked about how they use actual paint on clear glass and kind of like photographing that in high res to use as CGI templates. And also working with their partner studio in Taiwan to bring a lot of these environments alive in a more like painterly fashion and having sort of an abstraction of cityscapes. So it's just like a lot of detail going into this environment. And that's why already the show has really captured my attention. Is again, it is very familiar, but is also different at the same time.
Yeah, and I feel like in a world that we live in now of Lucasfilm animation, where the animation style has been pushed so far and in so many different directions with the work of the various studios who have worked on Visions, and really kind of expanded the ideas of what Star Wars can look like and be. I love that it feels like, yes, the shapes of the characters and the ways that we move, like the dynamics haven't changed of who characters are and how they move and what they do than it was in Bad Batch or Clone Wars, or even Rebels, right? But we've elevated it, we've taken it in a different direction, that at moments certainly evokes some of our shorts that we have loved, I think, in a way that I continues to push animation forward, I think, within the realm of Star Wars, which I love.
Any other thoughts on Janix as a place? I think we'll talk more about the politics of Janix when we get to Lawson. But
Mhm.
in terms of the art style and the location, are you good there?
Yeah, it's cool. We're gonna continue to talk about it every time, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Be like,
absolutely.
man, wasn't that shot so cool when he like did this with the lightsaber? He jumped this way or that, or the lighting was so cool. Like I've never thought more about lighting in animation. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess I certainly thought about it in Resistance, but that was different because it was like how the whole environment was lit, which was very bright, you know? But I'm like thinking about the lighting and the scenes, which I typically only think about, when I'm watching a prestige film and you're really thinking about how the character is lit in order, like I'm feeling that watching this show, because like just the colors and there is a sort of darkness to it. And of course, Maul, he's so Maul, he lives in the shadows, obviously. Phantom Menace, Shadow Lord, Shadow Collective. We're working on something here. We're working on something here. We're almost gonna get there. But yeah, I think what is being done with color and light is really cool in the show.
yeah. Well, I think that kind of leads us to our character discussion here, which we're going to talk about Maul, Devon, and Lawson as sort of the three primary leads of the show. But you're talking about lighting. You're making me think of the end of episode 1, where
Yup.
we have the hallway scene and a lot of reds, a lot of heavy reds, especially on Devon's character as she's looking out her cell door. And we get that one shot at the end of Maul outside the cell door, turning around, like kind of this black silhouette of him with his glowing red eyes looking in the cell, which is, in my opinion, one of the most menacing shots. Speaking of Phantom Menace, like one of the most menacing shots of any Star Wars I've seen. It sent chills down my spine. So it was scary, Sarah.
Yeah.
I was scared.
Yes. Yeah. It's so cool. And that was when I was talking about the light and the color. And that's exactly the scene I was thinking about because we're going to talk about Maul here first, but like that's clearly a turning point for Devon. She's going to start really thinking about what the future looks like for her. But anyway,
Maul.
we should talk about Maul first.
Yeah.
He happens to be in the title of the show.
Yeah. Let's talk about the title itself, Shadow Lord. So like we started with Maul, introduced to him as the Phantom Menace. Now he is the Shadow Lord. We last left him in the Siege of Mandalore, where he was unsuccessful laying siege to that city. The Shadow Collective that he was running fell apart, and he really he only escaped after Ahsoka rescued him on the Star Destroyer after Order 66. Flew away in a fighter, and we assume have now kind of wrangled up the remnants of his Shadow Collective, the people who are still loyal to him, like the Maul troopers and Rook Cast, who is now still voiced by Vanessa Marshall. So he's kind of scrounging up some people And he makes one comment in the first episode about how he wants to still operate in the shadows and he doesn't want to kind of fully reveal himself. So he's sort of taken a step back from somebody who wants to dominate the crime world and unite all the syndicates and be the leader of Mandalore and insert himself there. And now he's like, actually, I want to be a little bit more methodical before I show my cards again. And so
Yeah.
he's the Shadow Lord in the sense that he's like still running this collective or what's left of it, but also the Shadow Lord in the sense of I'm biding my time before I can lay a big punch.
He's plotting. The thing that, Siege of Mandalore fell apart for him. It's like pretty spectacularly. And part of the reason was like he was right, but he was wrong. He was so close, but he wasn't quite there, And so that probably is an ego hit and is like, well, what easy targets can I get to get back to a place where I feel confident in my plan? And we're seeing the beginnings of that here. And especially as he's like, there's another reason I'm here. It's not just the crime bosses. There's also, can't remember exactly what he says, but when he's talking about Devon, he doesn't know he's talking about Devon yet. He's like, there's something else here that's leading me here.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I noted down was Rook Cass asking him if he had another vision. So clearly there's some kind of omnipotent qualities to Maul where he is all knowing and he sees the future that's in motion, which he did in the Siege of Mandalore. He kind of sensed the turn of the power in the galaxy.
But if there's one thing we know about visions in Star Wars is that they can lead you very, very astray. Visions in Star Wars have not led most of our characters who have experienced visions in Star Wars to the places that they wanted to go.
I mean, Whitwer has always talked about Maul being Sisyphus, or maybe it was Freddie Prinze Jr., but him being Sisyphus, continuing to roll that boulder up the hill only for it to come crashing back down, right? And is it because Maul is too lost in the sauce of his visions?
The answer to that is yes. He is too lost in the sauce to see the sun between the clouds. Like he really is. And that's his downfall because the thing is, and we talked about this when we reacted to the trailer, and we talked about this when we talked about the Siege of Mandalore. He's kind of right. Like in the fundamental thought, he's kind of right. But then when you hear his plan about anything, you're like, oh, well, that's not how I would go about it.
Yeah, it's almost
every single time.
It's almost like he's predicting the right future and then he's trying to change it. But I think what he fails to understand is that like some of the things he's seeing, he has no power to change. And the galaxy will push back against his attempt to change the course of destiny. The force in that sense is not with him. It is opposing him as a direct force. But him saying our actions serve a greater purpose, events are falling into place. So still kind of that ominous feeling. And he tells Rook, as the Empire has risen, we have all been made to suffer. Even the once mighty Jedi have fallen. But there are many who have prospered from my misfortune. The Pikes, Crimson Dawn, Vario. Soon they will all pay. So clearly he's sowing chaos between these crime syndicates, kind of planning, the droid head in the droid head in the box moment where everybody's like, you turned on me. And then like everything turns to shit very quickly.
Yeah.
He's sowing that chaos in support of a larger plan to get back at Sidious, to get back at the people who have wronged him in his life, because he just lost his brother. He just lost Mother Talzin. He's lost a lot. He lost his power. He's lost his stake in Mandalore. He is pissed off.
Yeah, he's suffered greatly. And he's seen the world change around him too, right? His whole thing about Anakin and Palpatine and all of that. He definitely sees how it has changed for him, and we have all been made to suffer. He's right about that.
I think too, like one thing I noted with the art style specifically, I think it really feeds into Maul's emotional turmoil. Like I'm thinking of the show logo. It's a bunch of flames.
And then it simmers.
Yeah. I also noticed, and you should listen to this next time you watch one of the episodes, but on the moment where it does Maul Shadow Lord and it shows the episode title, you can hear him screaming very subtly.
Oh,
Very, very subtly. I was wearing noise canceling headphones when I did my rewatch,
I'll
but
do
you
that.
can hear Maul screaming in the background, like in agony. So,
Yeah, it's not gonna go well for him.
but the fire kind of evokes like, listen, he's willing to burn it all down if it means fulfilling his quest.
Fire can be so many things, right? He's willing to burn it all down. Um, as you said, like in pursuit of his quest, but also it's like the phoenix burns, and then he rises from the ashes.
Spider legs and all.
Spider legs and all. That's fucking right.
What excites me though, just with the animation, is how it will continue to evolve as Maul continues to spiral.
Right.
Going back to Kyra Kabler, who was in this article, she said, quote, "A lot of this comes down to Maul's mental state. He's really devolving. He's traumatized. He's doing terrible things. He's not in his right mind. He's so focused on revenge that sometimes some of the details fade away. I advocated for making the show more stylized, making it grungy, more painterly and abstract. My favorite moments in the show are when it gets a little crazy looking. We also talked about increasing that look when there are fights on the screen or Maul is having an intense moment or something like that. It helps reflect his inner turmoil." So I love the idea of the art style serving story and vice versa. Like, that's so cool to me.
Yeah, and then going back to some of our favorite Visions shorts, I am obsessed with Black, and Black is like craziest animation mind mess, that you've ever seen within Star Wars. So I like that, it's like, okay, as his mental state deteriorates, like things feel weirder. So I love that. And then you also mentioned, I'm going to steal your thunder here, but you also mentioned Sith from Visions 2, and the vibrancy of colors within Sith and like the style there. And I went nice. And then I looked back up Sith, and I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, wait, I need to rewatch this one. This one was really good. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. And I really love that they advocated for this and was like, let's push a little bit in this direction. It will work. And so I'm glad that we're going there as the season will continue to go on as well.
Yeah. I want to ask you, do you have any favorite scary Maul moments throughout this episode? Like a true Maul madness moment?
Wow. You just came up with a segment and I was unprepared. I think like the opening moment, we've kind of seen it, but in the trailers, but the opening moment when he appears out of the ship's ramp is like, here he is. I'm almost a little upset that it was spoiled in the trailers because it's so cool. And then we get the title card, of course.
And with Duel of the Fates in all of its glory.
God. Oh
so
my God.
Good.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was actually crazy.
Great use of the IP there, I think.
That was just like being like 2 or 3 minutes in, and I was like, wait, they should play this at my local movie theater. Actually, this goes really hard. That was really fun. And then, and maybe this is my cop out answers are the beginning and the end, because again, like that scene when he's getting Vario, with the lightsaber into the wall, and Vario keeps scooching away.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's
good.
crazy. I love it.
That was amazing. And it just shows how unpredictable he is. Because you don't know, is 100%. He going to? Is he not going to? Like, what is he going to do? And I think that's my favorite type of villain, is you just don't know what card they're going to pull out of their deck. So
it's what makes him.
Maul is so
interesting. It keeps him interesting, and it keeps all of us on our toes a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I think my favorite, I love a good hallway scene. And we got 2 of them. We got 1 per episode. But I think the second one felt very much right out of Rogue One, with the guy saying open fire to I thought Maul was going to ceiling slice the guy, but he didn't just ceiling slice him. He put him on the ceiling and then dropped him into his lightsaber, which is just as cool.
Yeah, that was actually that whole sequence, now that you mention it. Yeah, that was crazy. It was evocative of the Rogue One hallway scene. It also reminded me of, I think is it Resistance, or is it there's some also like sneaking around. Oh, video games sneaking around in the, like bugs and things, there's like horror elements to that too.
Yeah.
It was
you're thinking
spooky.
You're thinking like a Resident Evil type of game?
Yeah, that sort of vibe.
Where you're
It's
going through
happened
the
in Star Wars.
hallways with the flashlight.
Yeah, it's happened in Star Wars kind of a number of times in various different ways. Um, but yeah, I definitely felt that feeling, and it was cool and it was scary.
Yeah.
So, and especially as him or one of his sidekicks would be like walking just out of frame, you know, as Lawson and crew
Yes.
would pull up, and
Yeah.
he'd just be like walking away, and I was like, oh god,
Definitely made it spooky.
because it's like there's a confidence to that, you know, there's like a real confidence to that. That's like terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, so good. There's so many good Maul moments, and I'm sure we're gonna get even more throughout the show. And again, I just can't wait to see how far do they push the art style as he continues to spiral downward into his garbage pit with his garbage mindset. So can't wait. Let's talk a little bit about one of our newer characters, Devon, who is voiced by Gideon Adlon. I think she did a great job voicing this character. Also, I believe Pamela Adlon, who is her mom, is also in the show. She plays the officer at the beginning of episode 2 that talks with Lawson, who I don't remember the name of that character, but love some family in this show. Who is also, they're related to Odessa Izion, who is in Marty Supreme. It's all connected.
That's crazy.
I learned all of that yesterday.
I didn't do any of that research. Oh my goodness.
But Devon, we meet Devon. We're kind of going into the show with Devon knowing that she is a disillusioned person. She's a former Jedi. She's with her master, Master Iok Diodaki, I think is how you say his name. And they're kind of on the streets. She's insisting that they steal some fruit. He is like, nope, we got to rely on the kindness to strangers. That's the Jedi way. And he asks for some kindness from a stranger, and the stranger tells him, eat chuta, which every time I hear that, I always think eat shit. I think that's the Star Wars version of eat shit, probably.
It's kind of giving that.
Eat chuta. But it's interesting. Like, what did you make, just kind of meeting Devon with her master? Like, what did you make of that initial interaction and the way that she kind of wants to navigate the world versus the way that her master is telling her to navigate the world?
When I mentioned earlier in the episode that there are some characters that I went, I want to see more of you. It's the Jedi Master here. Because I don't know if we as the general audience knew that she wasn't alone initially in the story, or at least if everybody else did, I didn't. And so the presence of this Jedi Master really surprised me, especially considering this takes place about a year after Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. So we're kind of still in early Empire, but we're not in, directly after. So what was really interesting to me is that the Jedi Master, who has been in his ways and practiced being a Jedi for a long time, and I'm going to try and say Iok Diodaki, maybe. I don't think anybody has said it in the show yet. I'm waiting for somebody to say his name, please. But it's interesting because he says, okay, this is how I've lived in the world for a long time. This is going to continue to how I live in the world because this is who I am and these are my principles. And as a young person, I think Devon is seeing two things. Devon is one going, look around. Haven't you seen that everything has changed in the past year? We aren't Jedi the same way anymore. This isn't what the world looks like. We can't be the same person because the world isn't the same. And I think at the same time, as young people, we all try to adapt to survive, we're and I think that's also why Maul seeks out youth to like help fulfill his plans or whatever, because they're malleable, and adaptable. And because we want to, youth want to fit in, youth want to succeed. They want to find their place in the world. And I think that Devon has decided that this world, she doesn't want to be at the bottom of it. She doesn't want to be at the bottom of the totem pole, which I think is super normal of her, And so I thought this relationship between the two of them was incredibly interesting. And I'm looking forward to more from the Jedi Master, especially as Devon is, continues to be corrupted a little bit.
with the Jedi Master, don't you love it when Star Wars is just a green guy with a cane doing some flippy stuff?
Absolutely. Hey, Mom, thank you for saying that.
He's clearly a Yoda comp, you know, like that's extremely clear. But yeah, the thing with Devon, you've already
Listen,
alluded.
Brad, not every green character who is a Jedi is a Yoda comp.
Okay, you caught me. I was making a generalization. You caught me.
Yeah, shame on you.
You've alluded to it already, and let's dive into it further and like how her and Maul may interact over the course of the series. But she's experiencing this cognitive dissonance, like you said, of like, I want the world to be this certain way, but I know it's not. And my master won't acknowledge that it's not. He wants to pretend like it's still the, you know, the good old days of the Republic. And like, you can just be nice to people and they'll be nice back. Like, no, this is a dog eat dog world now. Like, people do not give you a passing look. The Empire has risen. You mind your business. You keep moving on. That's fascism. It divides communities. It makes you feel isolated and alone and not wanting to participate. So on one end of the spectrum, like Devon is kind of still trying to convince herself that she is a Jedi. At one point in episode 2, Maul says, "What does it mean for you to be a Jedi? A guardian of peace and justice in a time of lawlessness?" And then she replies that she still believes in those principles. Does she? Right? Like in the beginning of the first episode, she's advocating to steal the fruit off the stand. Like, hey, they won't notice. We just need to eat. You need to eat. It's okay to do a little bit of lawlessness here and there, right? And so she's trying to convince herself that like she still totally stands by those principles while at the same time understanding that she needs to be a little bit flexible in those principles. And at the very end of episode 2, Maul says, "It is time for you to view the galaxy for what it truly is." And I think that's an important line because he's directly appealing to what she's experiencing. She's experiencing that the galaxy is different, not the version her master is presenting to her. And I think that's why, and I think Maul recognizes that, and that's how he's trying to kind of get his in with her to then kind of groom her into his image and into that weapon he wants her to be.
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything to add. I just agree with you. Good thoughts.
What do you make of like his test of Devon? Because he keeps her in that kind of cage.
Right.
And is like, "You're not a prisoner." She's like, "I want to leave." And he says, "Do as you wish. You may do that whenever." And it's not till the very end of the episode that she does it and realizes like, "Oh, I could have left this whole time." Like, what do you make of the mental gymnastics, the mental puzzles that he's putting her through in this second episode?
Dare I call that fuckity wuckity? That's because that's mind games is what he's playing with her, right?
Yeah.
And he's doing it while she's isolated in solitary confinement, you know, essentially, which is particularly nasty because all you have is your mind, and you know, people go crazy in when they're stuck by themselves with no outside stimulation, whether that be other conversation or reading material or anything to do. And so I think she's experiencing that a little bit. And what he's suggesting to her is the line between lawfulness and lawlessness, right? You can do whatever you want. Don't let the rules stop you, is basically what that test is. And she decides to cross that line into a personal greed and a lawlessness that I don't think she's ever tapped into before.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like stepping over that threshold to bend the rules a little bit in favor of her. Granted, like she is a prisoner, but then Maul says like, if that's how you think of yourself in this situation, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, again, it's the fuckity wuckity mind games. He's like, you're I've locked you inside a room and you're thinking yourself as a prisoner.
There's always a comment.
That's weak sauce, actually. This is how Maul thinks. He goes, then that's weak sauce.
This is where I think the writing of the show is really good. I will say. Like I think the interactions between these characters is like spot on. It really, again, like continues to beg the question of like, why her? And she recognizes him at the end of the first episode as well, which, does she recognize him from past experience or reputationally?
Yeah. What's the situation there? But also, I guess, if she was a young person in the Jedi, there were other young people around the same time who also knew of Maul.
Yeah, I think so. And I do wonder too if we'll get any more backstory on how she like survived Order 66.
Are we going to get a May 4th Order 66 once again? Brad, it could happen. Anything could happen.
Let's do it. I can't wait.
The fact that has happened like more than a couple of times is really a little like Star Wars, the brand needs to look themselves in the mirror. Is like, maybe we should stop doing Order 66 every year.
It's not even like it's weird that it's happened twice kind of thing anymore. It's like, no, I have a whole dang dollar at this point.
Right,
I've gotten a lot of nickels from these moments.
Yeah, it's funny. But, because that could be demonstrative in showing us part of the reason why Devon feels that way, potentially, or how she knows him or any of these things.
Excited to learn more about her character, for sure.
Yes. And Order 66 is a great storytelling device and the tragic backstory of every Star Wars character's lives ever. I think that brings us to lawlessness, lawfulness, Lawson.
Oh, Law is in his name.
Law is in his name.
And he has a son.
Right? And he has a son. Wow, really on the nose on this one, Star Wars.
Yeah. But hey, Captain Lawson, voiced by Wagner Moura, Oscar-nominated Wagner Moura. Everybody go watch The Secret Agent. Incredible piece of movie making.
Please watch The Secret Agent. Oh my God, please watch The Secret Agent. Anyway.
Also watch Narcos. Wagner Moura is incredible in that show as well on Netflix. I think there's about 2 or 3 seasons of it.
Okay.
This is, I think, a character I didn't expect to know how I'd feel about, but I ended up coming out of these 2 episodes really liking him, which is weird to say because he is a cop. So there's that.
So I actively generally choose not to watch cop shows. We live in a world. I have a lot of options, and I don't choose to watch the cop shows these days.
As you shouldn't.
And here I am watching the Star Wars cop show with a side of Maul, and they, first of all, he's kind of very level-headed, and he's voiced by Wagner Moura, and Wagner Moura is, let me tell you, he's quite handsome. I'm already endeared. Okay. And I loved his performance in The Secret Agent. Okay. Please watch The Secret Agent. So I'm already like, as a person being like, wow, Wagner Moura, voices Lawson. Let me tune in, which is a bad place to start. But then they work to make him very empathetic. He seems to have a level head about things. He seems to be very invested and hands-on in his work. He seems to care. And he's also got a family.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, so, notably too, I think he's divorced. Either divorced or separated with his wife, because when he goes home, there's like empty pizza boxes on the counter. His son is looking at family photos, playing music by himself in his room. And he comes out, kind of plays with his like lacrosse stick that he's got in the corner. He's like, I want to go visit mom. And then Lawson gets pulled back into work. So clearly Lawson's the type of character who is much better at being a cop than he is at being a dad. Mm-hmm. And you have questions about how absent he is from his son Riley's life. And so I start to question, like, what will that mean for the story as it unfolds? Like, him being a dad presents a vulnerability, certainly.
Yeah.
How can Maul use that against him to sort of form him into the person or the ally that he wants him to be? Because he does leave him alive intentionally. He does have some sort of interest when he first sees him on the holocam. So, but yeah, I immediately caught that of him being somebody who was very dedicated to his work, maybe too dedicated, giving up some of the joys in his life. And maybe that's what led to his separation.
Yeah, I will say though, yes, they are separated or divorced. However, she's alive.
True.
Mom's alive. The bar is on the ground.
No dead moms in Star Wars. Let's go.
This mom is alive. I was like, you know what? They may be separated, but he's got 2 alive parents. Amazing.
Can't complain. Can't complain.
Because I was thinking, because it made me think about the Dozas, because the Dozas
Yeah.
are also, you know, it's not that like they're separated, their relationship is strong, but um the Dozas are in different roles that bring them to different parts of the galaxy that they don't see each other often. And so I initially, when that conversation at Lawson's home with his son, I was thinking about the Dozas, which was a nice reminder of the Dozas who I love. Yeah, this relationship is a little bit more complicated than that. And yeah, Lawson, he's not so present as a dad, which is a shame. He's got a photo of them. He's got a photo of his whole family, including his wife, right, on his desk. But when he goes home, his son doesn't want to connect with him and his wife isn't there, you know? So things have deteriorated for sure.
And then when we look at the workplace for Lawson, it seems like he's in kind of a little bit of a pickle. We learned some of the politics of Janix and their independence from the Empire, which is maybe not so different than that of Morlana One and Cyril Karn's organization that he's a part of, right? Before everything turns to shit on Ferrix, and guess what? The Empire swoops in
Right.
and takes over that jurisdiction, right? So it seems like he's kind of threading the line here, where hey, we uncovered this is MAUL. There's an ISB warning on his profile to report any immediate sightings, and he's like, no, we're gonna keep this a secret before the Empire comes in, and they're gonna lock this whole planet down. So what did you make of that? Because I was drawing the Andor comparisons like pretty quickly.
I remember there being a conversation. Maybe it was at Celebration. Maybe it was a little bit later, talking about the show or promoting it, where the creatives were saying something along the lines of, you know, maybe they don't want the Empire there. Maybe there's some things they want to themselves, or that they don't want the intrusion. And I remember that, you know, that turning some gears in my mind. And so I was really happy to see that really clearly delineated in these episodes, which is like the local law enforcement, Lawson and his team of robot cops, which, you know, I have some thoughts and feelings about that too, but it's okay. We like two boots. So I'm gonna give it a pass.
Also,
For
the robot
moment.
cops who can quickly do surveillance state and be like, oh, there's a face and here's their profile.
Exactly. You're getting to something there. Ban all the robots in our world. We don't need them. Anyway, it's fine. Anyway, so let me get back on track. Lawson and the local law enforcement are keeping things in line so that the amount of chaos that is happening on Janix is an acceptable amount of chaos for them, right? They can handle the things that go wrong in their jurisdiction. And they know all the crime bosses, and they're like, yeah, we don't like you, but as long as you're not messing with the civilians or us, then maybe we won't mess with you. And everybody kind of stays in their lane and does their thing. And what Lawson wants so much, clearly, is to keep that happening and not for the Empire to crack down, because the Empire would mean paperwork, middleman, oppression, a change in his lifestyle, a change in the lifestyle of the civilians, you know. And so he's trying to say, like, I don't need all this absolute nonsense we're all dealing with. Let me just do my thing. And I'm pivoting here, but I also loved that they look for more information on MAUL, and the government's like, nope, not a chance. And it gives MAUL such intrigue, and also like ISB has this whole file on MAUL that is restricted. Ooh.
And the fact that they ask if you cite him, report him, which indicates they know he's still alive out there somewhere,
Yeah.
or suspect he's alive.
Yeah, that adds another layer, because of course, you know, over the past couple of years, we've spent a lot of time with or around the ISB and seeing what the ISB does. Yeah, I don't know. And also the ISB's role in like the power acquisition, right? And the crackdown on the planets for the power acquisition for our big death laser. And if we're closely connected with Palpatine and we suspect that this cuckoo bananas guy over here who knows Palpatine, Sidious, you know, is still alive, then he is an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a threat. Anyway,
it's no secret. We know the Inquisitorius is coming into the show.
Oh yeah.
So we can do a little bit of healthy speculation here right at the end to wonder, how do they fit into the picture? How do they get notified? Do we expect a full crackdown of Janix? Part of me wonders, Two Boots even doing that facial scan, does that somehow
Trigger the system.
like trigger the system to say like you brought up this profile to begin with? Like it doesn't matter that you didn't report anything, like you pulled it up. Like I could see us starting off episode 3 with the Inquisitorius being like, "Oh, we triggered a search query on Marth Maul and Janix. Like send everybody there right now."
Right. They mentioned the ISB being the one that has this restricted file, but I googled ISB and Inquisitorius. just those two together.
Great.
And this somebody is asking 3 years ago on a Star Wars Reddit that's like, they seem to have similar roles. And then somebody else wrote, the Inquisitorius was founded mostly on Force user threats, whereas ISB is focused on internal threats and Imperial intelligence. Imperial intelligence is focused on external threats. I think that was a good way to put that down. But it's kind of all like a concentric circles. Like a Venn diagram where they all overlap. And so I wonder if there's any coordination at all between the Inquisitorius and these more formal Imperial intelligence bodies. I'm going to sound really silly if there's already connections, but I can't recall any off the top of my head. But I can imagine that, Maul falls into more than one category. He's clearly a Force user and a Force user threat, and the Inquisitorius is all about that. But also, is the Inquisitorius after Maul, or could they be after the Jedi Master?
That's a good point. Yeah, well, the Jedi Master does get seen by Lawson as well.
Right.
So, saving the people off the bridge.
So I'm wondering how that comes into all into play.
Well, and Maul not only a Force user, but also a political dissident, a political opponent, right? Like if he's trying to unite or reforge his criminal syndicate, that presents a threat to the Empire, right? Like the more you have these pockets of crime throughout the galaxy, I think in some ways, and I'll have to dive back into the rise and fall of the Galactic Empire to kind of understand like the Empire's preference and non-preference for crime syndicates throughout the galaxy, and like when they do and do not want them involved. But I feel like maybe the Empire's approach is like, hey, if this city is kind of run by crime lords and they're not interfering with our business, like we won't interfere with them. So when does the crime become a problem for the Empire and for the ISB to be involved? So there are some questions. There are some questions I have. I want to ask you finally before we start to wrap up. Do you have any like predictions on where Lawson ends up during the season? Does he become ally to Maul? Does he become disillusioned with the police state of Janix? Where does he end up?
Man, oh man. I have not even thought one single thought about it, and I refuse to speculate. I'm just here on the ride with Lawson. I don't know, and I don't know if I want to know. Clearly, everything's going to go wrong because Maul is in the picture, right? Like that's Maul's whole thing. I don't know if I've spent like any time speculating. This is so bad. We're a show that is supposed to discuss these, and I just have no thoughts. I'm just like ready to take this story as it hits me. Because crime syndicates and all that is like a little bit out of my realm. So where does Lawson end up? Wow, you've asked a question that I haven't even thought of once. I really have not been forward thinking at all about this. Holy moly. There's so many. He could be an ally to Maul against the Empire potentially. If the Empire comes in, he could be an ally to Maul against the Inquisitorius. He could be an ally to the Jedi Master against Maul for Devon. Because maybe another pull for Lawson is for the Jedi Master is like, that's my kid. And maybe he's like, well, I would do anything for my kid. Maybe. God, does he end up dead? I hope not. We employed
really
Wagner Mora for this. So like, please, let's keep him on.
But then at the same time, we employed Wagner Mora for this. Do we have the budget for Wagner Mora?
Do we have the budget? his budget has gone. His budget has gone up, and does that match Lucasfilm's budget? Anyway, there's so many options for him. Does he lose his morality, or does he keep it? I think that's the key question for Lawson is, does he, which is also the key question for the Jedi Masters, like, does he continue to abide by his morals and standards and what he believes is the law, or does he abandon it in the face of chaos, for chaos?
A lot of great questions. I think this show opens the door for a lot of interesting character work, and I'm super excited to see how it shapes out over the next 8 episodes. So yeah, we can only do so much speculation here because next time we talk, we'll have seen 4 more episodes. So a lot could change in 2 weeks. But
Yeah.
I'm super excited to cover that next batch of episodes with you towards the end of April before I head off on my cruise. So excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what's going to come. I think these characters are very interesting. I think the world that we've built so far is very interesting, and I think that it's gonna just kind of, I think it's all gonna blow up in our faces a little bit in terms of how bad it's gonna go for some of our characters.
Yeah. I think we're approaching this with a little bit of cynicism, less optimism in terms of events to unfold.
Well, how can I be optimistic? Let's be honest. How can I be optimistic when it comes to Maul? Because he's cuckoo bananas. Okay, he's cuckoo bananas, and we've seen how he dies. Okay, I
Yeah.
know where it ends for him. I can't be optimistic for him.
He's relentless, for better
He's
and for worse,
relentless.
but mostly for worse.
Exactly.
Oh boy. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I had a great time talking about these 2 episodes with you. Just over an hour's worth of content to talk about for 40 minutes of TV. So we did it somehow. But listener, we hope you enjoyed this first episode of our Maul coverage. We hope you stay tuned with us in the coming weeks as we continue to talk about the show. A lot of good, exciting Star Wars happening these next 2 months. So stick with us. Follow us on all of our socials, wherever you stay tuned to Star Wars news, whether it's Blue Sky or Twitter or Instagram. We're typically on those places, posting every now and then. And leave a rating, drop a follow wherever you enjoyed the podcast. It helps us get more listeners into the fold as we continue talking about a galaxy far, far away. So thank you.
Yeah. And we've got exciting things happening this year still, between books and movies and lots of good Star Wars to talk about. So, there's lots to be excited about. So a special thanks to our patrons, Andy, Brian, Cheryl, Clay, Emma, Ian, Jennifer, Josephine, Katie, Knights of Ren, Krista, Logan, Lindsay, Matthew, Mark, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Skytalkers, Viglyph, and Tom. Thank you all so much for your support.
Absolutely. Thank you all once again. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.